So let's talk about it. The elephant in the room. Yes, I am still living with my parents. And yes, I am 23, soon to be 24. The thing is that okay? That's the big question. In the US, it's a little bit scornful a lot of the time for an adult to still be living with their parents, no matter how you shake things up. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. After all, when we see someone like that in the States, we just think that they're a failure, that they're a leech, that they're a druggie, struggling to get their life together, to have their own money and live their own life. However, I've come to learn that that mindset just doesn't hold up. Today, I'd like to explain why. Bom dia, have you ever dreamed of traveling the world, moving abroad, but just don't know how to do it? Then you found the right channel. We dropped it all and moved to Portugal. We share our travels, and through our experiences, we show you all how to go about traveling the world regardless of age and money. With people constantly looking for their next adventure, we want to show you that there are many ways to go about it, and you don't have to be a millionaire. But first, only 32% of people who watch our channel are subscribed. It would help us significantly if you subscribe, leave a like, and a comment in the description of the video. So, some details about my situation. Back in the era of COVID, my parents' dreams of retirement were finally coming to fruition. This meant that they had finally figured out where they were going, and that place was abroad, to this little island off the coast of Morocco called Madeira. They told me that they wanted to move there, and that I was free to come. Really, they wanted me to come. And again, with this being on just the come out the backside of COVID, it was, for me, about the perfect time to embark on such a journey. I didn't have much time myself back to my old hometown, and I'd always wanted to come to Europe, so it was the perfect chance for me. All three of us embarked on this grand journey across the ocean to start a new life here in Portugal. But 3 years later, and here I am, still living with my parents. What's the deal there? Well, in Portugal, and Europe in general, the mindset for grown kids living with their parents is different. And because of that, it's given me some time and a way to look back on things and understand that there's a lot of advantages to staying with my parents, both for me and for them. Here we are standing in Santa Cruz. It's on the southeast side of the island, just by the airport. But today, for our walk, we headed out past Funchal to Camar de Lobos. We often find ourselves going on walks on the south side of the island. And I'm sure you've heard me in the past say that we want to focus on doing longer walks on the north side or up on top of the mountains. Well, today my dad's feeling a little under the weather, so we decided to stick to something we know a little bit better. That is Levada Nova. Now this section of Levada Nova just up above Camar de Lobos is a section we haven't walked before. But we know that Levada Nova always makes for a wonderful walk. And if you don't know, levadas, as always, are the old waterways that would carry water from the wetter north side to the drier south side of the island. This was originally done for irrigation purposes, and even today it's still used heavily across the island. But a side effect of these slow, gradual sloping levadas with a nice, flat, concrete path beside them is that they make for excellent walking paths for any visitor or just walking aficionado. I hope you enjoy the wonderful views as I continue. So what does living with your parents actually do for you? Or just living with family in general, for that matter? Well, the US sometimes gets confused about this, but I'm sure everyone knows that it saves money. When the kid who ran off to start their own business runs out of money and the business goes under, he runs back to mommy to save money. When times are tough and the late 20-something is struggling to hold down a job, he comes out of his rental apartment to go and live with his parents because that allows him to save money while he's getting back up on his feet. And these are things that everyone understands and knows. And yet sometimes we seem to misunderstand. The thing is, saving money isn't some proof of someone's failures. In Europe, it isn't uncommon for a child to stay with their parents until they're 25 to consolidate and build up money. In some cases, it can also help prevent excessive spending that, a young adult going off on their own is often prone to doing. But the big thing in Europe, and really why it happens here, is that it allows family to stay close. For a moment, let's look at the world from the view that everyone is always saving for retirement, and that we all want to live a dream life where we don't have to work for a living. And whenever you try and talk to someone about early retirement, they always say the same thing. If only I started saving sooner, then I would have more money now and I could retire sooner. The advice everyone knows to hand out is to save as much money as possible from as young of an age as possible, because every dollar saved now is going to count for so much more further down the line. So let's go back and look at the adult living with their parents. Since the house is shared, that's money saved. And even if we say that the parents are charging the kids half of the rent that they would have otherwise been paying, that is money being saved. Even without getting into the nitty-gritty details on the cost of gas saved in a shared trip to get groceries, it is clear that the whole arrangement is beneficial for that early retirement dream. But I don't necessarily just want to speak to the money. After all, most people in the US understand that it saves some money. For most, it's simply that there's a stigma that gets in the way. So let's go over some more of the advantages that living in Europe has shown me. Europe, and specifically Portugal, and in fact most of the world other than the US, is more family-oriented than the US. In Portugal, multi-generation households are common. They foster an importance for supporting one another, both young and old. This is all in place so that the elderly have the support they need, and people who actually care for them. After all, when a young person's running off to go and start their own life, and they haven't spent a ton of time with their parents, and this can lead to situations where they don't care to come back and make sure that they're treated well in the later stages of their life. And to the Portuguese, these connections are very important. This isn't to say that the United States is bad. In the US, we push for independence, for chasing something that's better than what the previous generation had, and that's a good thing. It just naturally comes along with the side effect that when someone isn't chasing something out there trying to get that dream, we see them as a failure. In my case, I'm a stock trader and investor, and by the time I'm 30, I'm going to be a millionaire. So I am uniquely benefited by not spending money, since I know my knowledge and training will let me leverage that money for the future. It also lets me help my parents since I'm staying with them. Even though we have strongly discussed my moving out to make sure I don't feel like I'm trapped caring for my parents, I have ultimately come to the same conclusion as my parents. Not yet. Putting a bunch of money aside to buy my own place, it just doesn't make sense yet. But about that being trapped idea. I'm sure a lot of Americans have thought of this. And yes, it can absolutely become a situation where an adult kid living with his parents might feel trapped. Taking my situation. I go on most of my vacations with my parents. I spend most all my time with my parents, or with or around my parents. If the relationship I had with my parents wasn't good, if we didn't trust each other perfectly, it wouldn't make for a good living arrangement. But I do get along with my parents. And so because of that, this all works. And that's something to keep in mind.
In case you didn't know, our It'll Be Fun Moving Abroad program may just be the perfect fit for you. It pulls all the information together that you need to know into one location for you to refer back to at any time you want. We work through managing expenses, expectations, life coaching, choosing your new country, and more. Our programs, Patreon, and affiliates are how we support this channel. Links are located in the description of our videos, as well as on our website and Patreon. We'd like to take a moment to thank all our Patreon supporters. Your financial support is truly appreciated, allowing us to create new content. We should have done this sooner. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to help us grow. The next stage in your life is a journey.